You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Stellaris Galactic Paragons had some pretty broken mechanical interactions that led to some very overpowered situations for you as the player. Well, luckily patch 3.8.3 has been released, reducing discounts across the board and nerfing a lot of those strategies. And now Stellaris is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Well, with that in mind, today we're going to be using some features to conquer the galaxy by year 20. Yes, you've heard me right, we're going to achieve galactic conquest in only 20 years. And to do that, we're going to be playing as the Infinite Empire can comfortably conquer the galaxy in just 20 years. But I'm actually confident it might be possible to do it even faster than that if you really want to try at home. There may be a few small pockets of resistance that last beyond that 20 years, but they will be so easy to crush that they're not really worth mentioning. When it comes to traits, ethics, and civics, there are certain things you really need to choose here. In terms of traits, I've gone for lithoid so that I can take scintillating skin, giving me a small rare crystal income, thus allowing me to use the crystalline sensors, because galactic exploration will be very necessary with this build. After that, you could pick anything you want. You don't really even need to take these rare crystals. I think it just gets that galactic conquest going a little faster. Now, what's really interesting about these traits is that pops and your economy, unlike probably every game you've ever played in Stellaris, are going to be completely irrelevant with this build. You can put basically anything on your pops. Their economic output should not really matter in this game. Yes, they have to exist, but we're not even going to be going out and colonizing planets. This strategy is going to seem very backwards, but I promise you it will pay off in an overwhelming fashion. I am promising 20 years to galactic domination, and I'm pretty sure you at home might be able to do it faster. Vaults of Knowledge will be very useful for giving us a +1 leader starting level. That will boost the level of all of our leaders, obviously by 1, immediately from the point we hire them. Parliamentary system is also very important. This means all of our factions will form shortly after the game starts, and we'll also get a little bit of additional unity gain from our faction. But overall, unity generation after the first 10 years will not be an issue. We are going to complete all of our tradition trees and get pretty much all of our ascension perks within 10 years. Speaking of getting all of our tradition trees and ascension perks, you must be democratic in order to complete this build. You don't have to stay democratic, but you do need to start. With that in mind, given the fact we are going for democratic at the beginning, I would recommend taking fanatic egalitarian. That will increase your leader pool size by 1, which will help to pull all of this off, and give us increased faction unity gain. That increased faction unity gain stacks pretty nicely with parliamentary system as well. The last ethic you must take is materialist. Materialist will allow us to use the academic privilege living standard, which is absolutely broken when combined with parliamentary system. And of course, it would not be a rush galactic conquest if we didn't use Here Be Dragons for some dragon shenanigans. When it comes to ruler traits, I would definitely recommend you pick a governor to be your ruler, and then you can pick any traits you want. I've gone here for logistic understanding to reduce our ship upkeep a bit, but you could go for charisma or eye for talent or anything else you'd like. These are the settings I've used to complete this galactic conquest run in an unbelievably short amount of time. Right out of the gate, I'd recommend you switch over to Isolationist, granting you a little bit more unity in the first 10 years. We are going to want to switch out of that diplomatic stance after this is done. Moving to a civilian economy is also a great idea because this build doesn't really require us to make any alloys. We're not going to need any alloys or building any ships in order to conquer the galaxy. Because we're on a civilian economy, we can then switch over our capital designation to a factory capital. Not only does that put all of our industrial jobs into the artisan role rather than having some forged jobs, we also are going to be producing extra consumer goods per artisan. I'd recommend you buy some minerals, some alloys, and some rare crystals every month. As soon as your faction's found in the 2nd or 3rd month, you are going to want to change some things over just a little bit. Now, factions with high approval generate large amounts of unity. Let's take a look. We're making an extra 25 unity here just from our factions alone. We're also getting extra happiness, etc, etc. I'd recommend you promote your egalitarian faction. That's going to, because they have 100% approval, give you an overwhelming amount of unity. And then when we go to our policies and edicts, we can turn on encourage political thought for yet more ethic shift chance, pushing more people into egalitarian. When it comes to crystalline sensors, you can either toggle this on and use the period button to go forwards 1 day and thus get increased sensor range and then turn it off, or if you have the economy, which around year 3 or 4 you probably do, you can just leave this turned on the whole time and simply not worry about it. It is more economical to turn it off and on, but that's entirely up to you and how much you really want to micromanage this. The other thing we need to do as soon as our factions form is change over our living standards. By changing over from decent conditions to academic privilege, we buff our rulers' political power by an extra 200% and our specialist political power by an extra 300%. We also increase our happiness of specialists and get more research points produced. Though we do have slightly increased upkeep on our specialists, that won't worry because we're making so many consumer goods on our capital. As you can see, changing that over has buffed our unity production even further. As you select leaders, I'd recommend you choose leaders which have resource traits, or as your leaders level up, pick resource traits for those additional levels. These resource traits will help balance your economy out and give you lots of extra things. For instance, here one of our governors is producing a whopping 32 food. Even though we are lithoid, we can sell that food, and later on, when we do actually need some food production, it will come in very, very handy. Continue going out and exploring the galaxy. Don't forget to make use of your regular fleets when coupled with both the Admiral on one of your fleets and additionally turning on and off the crystalline sensors for increased sensor range. You'll be able to basically explore the galaxy with not only your science ships, but also your military fleets as well. Whenever you do find first contacts out there as you're exploring the galaxy, do stick an envoy in there as soon as possible to complete the first contact. You'll want to prioritize first contacts with regular empires over special things like amoeba and the like. Don't forget to keep building up your capital, add additional research labs, increase your economy, do all the normal things you would do. However, under absolutely no circumstances would I recommend you colonize one of the habitable planets you find around you. That is not a good idea at this point in the game, and I'm gonna say something that sounds quite strange, but at the moment, things like our economy, our population, are pretty irrelevant. Unlike most builds, we do not need to focus on our pop growth, we do not need to focus on our economy or our resource output. We have to focus on exploring the galaxy, and that is a top priority. Just before we get to year 5, where your leader pool will refresh, what you need to do then is hire every single governor you have available. Because you've taken Fanatic Egalitarian, you will have +1 leader pool size, meaning you can recruit all 4 governors. And you should also have enough unity left after you've done that to complete the aptitude tradition, granting you some more leader capacity. On top of that, you could also take something like transcendent learning, giving you even more leader capacity as well. That way we'll still get some leader experience gain and the like until year 10. We'll also get +1 leader pool size and +1 leader pool size. The other reason completing aptitude first is important is because we're going to be making use of Champions of Empire. Now, Champions of Empire was a little bit broken when 3.8 originally came out. We used to get -2% empire size per governor in our empire. That meant if we stacked 50 governors, we could get to 0 empire size. Luckily, that has now been fixed, and we get, instead of -2% empire size per governor, a flat -2 empire size per governor level. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Yes, this change is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. You notice here, we're already at -24 empire size, and that's from only 6 governors. We also, because of all of those bonuses I just talked about, have the opportunity to recruit another 6 governors on top of the 6 we already have. I'd recommend you wait until just before year 10 to get these governors though, because we want to boost the leader level of the governors we currently have, thus increasing their abilities when it comes to empire size reduction. At year 10, an interesting thing is going to happen, and that thing is what we're going to make use of in just a moment. It's a very, very unbalanced way. So, an election is occurring because we are democratic. We have lots of people at our disposal to support across our empire because there are lots of different candidates. I'd recommend you pick your current chancellor, or whatever they call themselves, and support them. Now, normally, as you support a leader, it's going to cost you some unity to increase the support, and increasing your support will cost you more unity the more you want to increase the support of a specific candidate. But this also scales with empire size. Now, what would happen, I wonder, if empire size were to go negative? Ladies and gentlemen, the dark side of Stellaris is a pathway to many abilities some would consider to be unnatural. I will have to let the month tick over just for those new governors to have their effect impinge on the value of empire size here, but once we do, you will see that I'm at -6 empire size. I am negative, ladies and gentlemen. This is a state that should not be possible. We have achieved anti-empire. You may have heard of antimatter, you may have heard of dark matter, you may have heard of all of these random things out there, but what about, ladies and gentlemen, anti-size? Yes, we are not just big, we are the inverse of big. And if you're enjoying this video, please, use that anti-like button. Not little, but beyond little back into anti-big. It's something. We have a massive increase in our leader upkeep, and we're making negative unity. This would be very, very bad. However, I can now increase the support on my governor, and if you'll watch my unity, ladies and gentlemen, it's going up. Yes, you see, once you actually reach negative empire size, when you increase support during an election, it costs you negative unity. Well, taking a negative away is basically adding, and as you can see, my unity here is shooting up. That actually allows me to hire yet more governors, and by hiring more governors, I'll get even lower empire size, which means that I'll be getting even more unity every time I click this button. Yes, now every time I click this button, my unity goes up, and I can make it go as high as I want. I simply pause the game and I click this. You see, this is an infinite unity feature that is currently enabled in Stellaris. Isn't it beautiful, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I do love it. Now we could click this, yes, forever. We've already hit 1 million unity. Let's go out and spend some of that. So I'm going to go out and complete diplomacy. Now, diplomacy I think is useful because we're going to use it to form a federation. Having a federation will be very, very helpful. We also, as a bio-empire, probably want the best type of federation at the moment, which is the trade federation, so we're going to go with mercantile. And then I suppose we could go with prosperity, because prosperity is always good to have, even if it's not actually that useful for our build today. Supremacy is, of course, a fantastic tradition to take as well. And we could go with discovery, just to get everything rolling out there in terms of surveying the galaxy a little faster. And how about unyielding to finish it off? Oh, I've spent 500,000 unity. It's year 10. I have 7 ascension perks available. I should probably start buying them. Well, I guess I'm going to take shared destiny. That's going to become important in a moment. Technological ascendancy is nice. Ooh, I don't know. How about become the crisis at year 10? Yes, we'll go with that. Thank you very much, game. I could also take Defender of the Galaxy 2. That plus 200 opinion is going to make it so easy to do anything like forming a federation or creating vassals. Galactic Force Projection is nice. And I've got 6. I'm actually going to leave the 7th open, but you do need to take these 6. By doing what I've done here, you will not be able to take an ascension path. You won't be able to biologically ascend or cybernetically ascend unless you keep the 7th open. But actually, I wouldn't really recommend that because you do want to have 6 of these slots unlocked with a 7th ready to go when you need it. But completing all of these traditions, completing these ascension perks just feels like a bit of a gimmick. This isn't that broken so far, right? Well, along came a dragon. You see, once we have completed 6 ascension perks, we'll actually be able to bring the dragon on our side as our person. It's going to be excellent. But how can we bring the mighty Horozga of the Eternal Flame onto our side? Well, we must get draconic communications. You must have a first contact skill of at least 4 and have met 70% of the nations in the galaxy and founded the Galactic Community in order to get draconic communications. This then allows us to pop an envoy in here, and when we do that, we'll eventually hear the dragon roar. Now, when we hear the dragon roar, we may not initially be ready. By completing 6 ascension perks, you are ready, and it should quite quickly trigger. Occasionally, this doesn't seem to be the case. There are some weird bugs in this at the moment. I can't quite work out why it does sometimes and doesn't sometimes trigger, but if it doesn't trigger, you might just have to reload, start again, and try doing it slightly differently. But when you finally do get Hrosgar on your side, you will have an overwhelming advantage. It's year 19 here now, and I can go out and do something rather interesting. First, I am going to form a federation with my nearest neighbor here, because I do want to be in a fed. And then I'm going to go around every single empire in the galaxy, making sure to give them some pretty balmy Overlord subject deals, whilst also taking a generous helping of their basic resources or their research or their advanced resources, it doesn't really matter, and sending those out into the ether. I'm able to do this because I have a dragon on my side, giving me an overwhelming amount of Diplo weight via fleet power. Alright, it's year 20, I've sent my proposals out. Let's watch the entire galaxy crumble. There goes the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and finally, there we are, the 5th. Now, there are a couple of stragglers out there. There are a couple of empires that are currently in wars and that sort of thing. Now, your power should actually be so overwhelming that even empires that are overlords should, if you give them the right deal. Now, this deal does seem pretty crappy on my end. I'm giving them a whole bunch of stuff, but honestly, we have the rest of the galaxy supporting us economically. We can handle this. You should be able to even take over the empires that have their own vassals. Yes, there we are. We've just grabbed them in, and then, well, in 10 years' time, we can renegotiate the terms of this arrangement, which actually, at the moment, because we're only 20 years into the game, aren't even that bad. But what do you think about this galactic conquest in 20 years? Have you been able to achieve it even faster? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments below. Yes, also you might notice the fact I've got 7 million unity here. I clicked that button quite a few times to get all that unity, and I have been using it. I've been using it to increase the ascension level of all of the planets in my empire. That's a good idea, because you see, after year 10, well, you can go above that negative empire size if you want to, and it is a good idea to have just a couple of planets specifically for things like defense. We can also use Hrosgar here, our fantastic dragon, to go and deal with things like a fanatic purifier and wipe them from the face of the galaxy. Because we've got those vassals as well, and because we vassalized empires while having the crisis perk, we're going to be increasing our crisis level. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is also incidentally a crisis rush build. If you play your cards right, if you don't vassalize every empire, if you leave a couple of empires out there to be purged by you and your vassal swarm, think the HRE vassal swarm, that's basically what you're going to be doing here. You should quite easily be able to rock up to that 10,000 menace within 35 years of the game starting. The main issue, honestly, is going to be having enough research to complete all of these special projects in time. To do that, you can do 2 things. You could focus a lot more on your economy, like I haven't been, to be perfectly honest. I've basically ignored it for this game, and get lots more research, or you could renegotiate your vassal contracts to get as much research as you can from them. Well, I was a little late to the party. It is year 39, but the end is nigh. Our time has now come. And the community have declared us a crisis of galactic proportions. There's currently only one member of the community left. That's the Imperial Shantarian Systems, who you might remember we formed a federation with some 20 years ago. Well, now they have elected for suicide. And the first place our Star Eaters are going to go is into their territory to end their incompetence. I've also killed, we've also taken out pretty much everything else. This is GG here. The only thing we have left to do here is farm enough dark matter to destroy the entire universe. We can probably get that done, if I'm quick about it, in the next 30 years or so, I suppose. I mean, let's just see how long it takes. Well, the plan was brilliant. Don't question the plan. something did happen. You'll notice a lot of red here. Also, the pricky T just kind of spawned from a system I obliterated in this part of the galaxy. That was weird. But, yes. Problem. Well, we are ever so slightly at war with almost all of our vassals. Because it turns out, and you'll be shocked to hear this, they don't like it when we're trying to destroy the galaxy, or when we're the Crisis Empire, or when we destroy star systems. So they may get to a point where they actually rebel against you. Luckily though, with the rebellion ongoing, we still gain lots and lots and lots of resources, lots of things like research from our subject taxes. So it's absolutely not a problem. We can also do a full planetary ascension on our capital, I forgot about that. And of course, as the Crisis, we'll get access to things like the menacing destroyer here. Isn't it beautiful? There is one more thing I'd like to show off, and that is a nigh immortal dragon build. So, what you'll want to do for this is get a leader onto your dragon. To do that, you'll want to merge your dragon with another fleet, and then delete the one ship that fleet had in it, thus giving you an admiral on your dragon. You'll also want to make sure you level up an admiral to be the best they can possibly be. To do this, you'll want the Jury Rigger 3 trait. Now this trait, which is only available to tactician admirals, means every time you destroy an enemy ship, one random ship in your fleet will gain 25% hull points. Well, as your dragon is the only ship in this fleet, and because 25% of its hull points is a whopping 60,000, this will mean the dragon is nigh unkillable. We've just had the Khan spawn in. Oh no, look at all of these fleets. Isn't this dangerous? Well, actually no. This dragon should be able to tank all of these hundreds of K worth of ships relatively easily. You see, every time it takes down a destroyer, a corvette, something like that, look at this here, it jumps back up to almost full HP, making the dragon nigh immortal. It took a little bit longer than I expected, partly because I went away from the game and left it running for a bit, but you know, here we are, we're around year 70 something, and oh look, the galaxy's over. What a difficult time it's been. Yes, allegedly most of the galaxy is at war with us, but to be quite frank, we win. If we hadn't gone down this crisis path, they would have stayed perfectly happy as our vassals till the end of time. Well, there we have it. We've won the game with a score of 566,000. It's fair to say at this point, Stellaris is perfectly balanced with absolutely no exploits. But what if you don't have an almighty or powerful dragon to conquer the rest of the galaxy? Well, you're going to need to design your own ships. If you'd like to know which weapons are the best in the game, and you'd like to see them placed in a tier list, click the video on screen now.